my favorite 4 years of my life. Well, no, make that 7 years of my life. All right. So what you see up there is Forest Hall. Forest Hall was my dorm when I was a student at Toccoa Falls College. All right. Now, here's the thing. 3 days into my time at Toccoa Falls College, living in that dorm, a kid named Jonathan made a mistake. A kid named Jonathan thought he was funny, and he pulled a little baby prank on me. He hid my teddy bear. And I don't even care. You can judge me. I've had the same teddy bear since the day I was born. His name is Soft Teddy. He was pink at one time. Now he's gray, kind of like Jason's t-shirt. He's missing an eye, and he's awesome. I've folded him in half now for 44 years, and so he just kind of falls over in half. Now, I don't sleep with him anymore, but he's in my nightstand, and I love him. I love Soft Teddy. Jonathan decided to hide Soft Teddy. Jonathan made a mistake. Because if you do a tiny little prank to me, I am going to do a huge prank back to you. You don't want me as your enemy in a prank war. And so I'm going to walk you through how I made his life terrible for the next month. Here we go. The first thing I did, the next day when I found out it was him, I decided that this was about 3 or 4 weeks into the semester. I waited because I didn't want him to, you wait for a little bit of time, you let it pass because he's expecting something. About 3 or 4 weeks in, I heard that he had a big test at an 8 o'clock class. And so I knew that he would be getting up early and that he would be using his alarm and all that. So I took a stack of pennies, and you can do something called a penny lock. Let me tell you what a penny lock is. The doors that we had, they had a special mechanism to open them, and if you would take the door and push it really hard, you could get it to move about that much. I am going to switch mics. All right. So, hey, look at that. That's really hot. Okay, there we go. So, what I did was, if you laid down in the hall, you could get your feet against the hallway, and you could push really hard to open the door just about that much without it actually unlocking and opening. And if you took pennies and jammed them in, that doesn't allow the door to open from the inside, and you penny lock them in. They're locked in their room. I then took a piece of rope that was very long. It was a climbing rope, and it was a hallway in a dorm, just like a hotel. And I tied each door closed on the hallway, back and forth. Tied it off on the end to an anchor point. No one was getting out of their room that night. I'm glad there wasn't a fire. And then I went to the end of the hallway where the breaker box was, and I killed all the power to all of their rooms. This was 3:30 in the morning. So none of their alarms were going to go off. Sure enough, Jonathan slept right through his test. That's what he gets. You don't want me as your enemy. Well, Jonathan didn't put it together that it was me. And so I decided, you know what? I want my credit. Eventually, I want him to know it was me, so I'm going to do something else. And so you have to realize this is now the end of September in Georgia. The end of September in Georgia is disgusting. It is hot, it is humid, and every bug that you can imagine lives there. And so, after we heard Jonathan running his mouth a little bit, we decided to get huge manila envelopes, and we decided to fill them up with powdered sugar. Okay, no big deal. Here's what we did. We took those 3 manila envelopes, and we stuck the open end underneath his dorm room door when he wasn't there, and we went, powdered sugar coated his entire room at the end of September in Georgia. Do you know what was in his room an hour later? Every bug in 3 counties in Northeast Georgia. Do not mess with me. You do not want me as your enemy. Do not touch Soft Teddy. Here's the thing. He found out it was me, And the next day, he hid my keys. Ooh, that's a good one, Jonathan. All right, you want to keep this going? I'm going to end this. So we went to Walmart and we bought ourselves 3 bottles of permanent blue hair dye. Now, here's the other thing. We knew his schedule and we knew that he used the same bathroom every morning to take a shower. We knew he used the shower on the right-hand side every morning to take a shower. If you take a look at Allie's hair, about that color, a little lighter actually. And so we went to the bathroom where we printed off a couple of out-of-order signs and we put on the 2 showers next to it. Took the shower head off, and we absolutely filled that shower head with permanent blue hair dye. That morning, we made sure he was the first one to come in. We directed everybody else to the other bathroom at the other end of the hall. And let's just say for about 3 weeks, Jonathan looked like a Smurf. So do not mess with me. You do not want me as your enemy. He actually came to my room and surrendered. He said, I don't want to mess with you. I don't like you. This war is over. You win. All right. So here's the thing. You don't want me as your enemy. I'm just saying. A professor, and a couple of you know the story already, made this mistake. A professor in class one day, a counseling professor, was bragging about his new guard dog that he just bought. Oh, this guard dog is huge. It'll eat you. You try to come to my house to toilet paper my house, my dog will eat you. Well, you know what we heard? We heard a challenge. And so, a couple of nights later, we were having what's called steak and shrimp night in the dorm cafeteria. Steak and shrimp night only comes around every so often. The way it worked is you got 1 ticket for 1 steak. It wasn't all you could eat. And so about 20 of us decided to use our ticket to get our steak. We stuck that steak in a little bag and stuck that bag in our pocket. We then ate cereal that night for dinner. About 1 in the morning, we all met. We went over to Dr. Quarterman's house. And sure enough, wah, 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 here comes his dog. And you know what we did to that dog for the next hour? We fed him steak for the next hour. You know what we were doing to the house while we were feeding the dog? What were we doing, Maddie? We took every roll of toilet paper out of our dorm. We probably had 350, 400 rolls of toilet paper. It took 3 cars to take the toilet paper. And we put every one of those rolls on Dr. Quarterman's house. It was awesome. You do not want me as your enemy. There is a reason I keep repeating that phrase. Final story, and a couple of you know this story already. I get mad still thinking about this. A gentleman named Dr. Paul Alford was our university president. Dr. Paul Alford didn't like students. He was old, he was grumpy, and he liked to impress people. And so, at our college, on Sundays, we actually had a nice dinner. We would come in from church, and you would go in, and there'd be chefs in hats, like cutting roast beef at a station, and there'd be like homemade mashed potatoes and gravy, and oh, dude, I'm telling you, it was perfection every Sunday, except when the board of directors were on campus. Because you see, they were Dr. Alford's boss, and so he would impress them by taking all of the good food that was meant for the students, and in the president's dining hall, they would have our roast beef and our mashed potatoes and our barbecued chicken. And we would have hot dogs and burgers, and we would get mad. And so, Saturday night, we found out that Dr. Alford was coming in, and at about 1:30 in the morning, 5 of us broke into the cafeteria. And we brought with us about 35-gallon buckets. And in those 35-gallon buckets, we placed every piece of silverware that the cafeteria had. Every piece of silverware. We took the spoons and the knives and the forks, and then we took the serving spoons and the serving forks. And then we took the plastic silverware in storage. And then we took the stuff that they use to prepare the food. And we took those buckets and we walked them out of the cafeteria into a crawl space underneath the dining hall that had been boarded up for decades. Nobody ever went in there. We took it off the hinges. We hid the silverware. We put it back on. We went to bed. We come back the next morning and Dr. Alford is screaming, "What happened to my silverware? Where did it go?" And all of the board of directors are standing there just looking at him. And there's a big sign that says, "Due to a theft of the silverware, we will be serving hot dogs and hamburgers to everyone today." In fact, it got to the point that we were at, this is where it got scary, we were at our favorite professor's house for dinner one night. We were friends with his daughters. They lived in town. He was in charge also of all the discipline on campus. He was a former police officer, and he had been charged by our university president to catch, to prosecute, to imprison, and kick out of the college whoever stole the silverware and made him look stupid. So we come in for dinner one night. We sit down. We had dinner at his house a lot. And my buddy, because this is being recorded, I won't say your name just in case you're listening. But my buddy, who was a part of the theft, sat down next to me at the table. And we realized that there was no silverware in front of us. And everybody sits down at the table and we're like, "Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Collier, we don't have any silverware." And Dr. Collier, the professor, looks at his wife and says, "They don't get silverware. They might steal it." In that moment, he had the power to call the police and have us arrested. In that moment, he had the power to kick me out of college. He never said a word. I never said a word. And that was that. Because you know what? You don't want me as your enemy in a prank war. Because I will win every time. So here's the thing. I am a 44-year-old chubby guy. I work with middle school kids. I'm not actually really scary. And if you don't want me as an enemy, let's see if we can imagine a worse enemy. Who would be a worse enemy than me? What do you think? Her. Paige? Paige scares me. Yes, there's no doubt about that. Katie? Oh. Katie, Greensburg, Salem, Katie? Yeah. I've stared at Katie in the middle of a Gaga game. I still wake up screaming. So it's true. Who else? Who do you not want as an enemy? Your uncle. Kaden. CJ's crazy. Francis might be a little crazy if he really was mad at you. Alan doesn't have an off switch. Yeah, I could see Alan causing you some trouble. Think bigger. The Rock. Nice. Can you see The Rock comes up to you and he was like, "What's going on?" He like pops his pecs up and down. Poof, 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 poof. That would be scary. And Paul, who would you not want as an enemy? Anybody who would scare you legitimately if they were after you? What school do you go to? Oh, Mr. Sullivan and I get along really well. He's a cool dude. But yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with him. So, yes. Dude, your dad's a beast. I agree. Yes. Yes. Karma. I test karma a lot. So, I kick karma in the face. You don't want to start a prank war. Trust me. I'll get fired. I don't even care. What's that? Jack Black? Really? I think I would just laugh at him. I don't know if he would scare me. But I like it. Okay. Jack Black, nice. Alan, last one. Donald Trump. Dude does have the military at his disposal, so. All right, I am going to suggest an enemy that you don't want. Send your attention up to the big screen. I'm going to read out loud. Follow along. In the book of James, chapter 4, verse 4, it says this. You adulterers. Ooh, that's some heavy language. Dang, he called you a cheater. You adulterers, don't you realize that friendship with the world makes you an enemy of God? I say it again. If you want to be a friend of the world, you make yourself An enemy of God. Ooh. Okay, let's see here. Anybody want to take God on as an enemy? No takers? That's some pretty serious language. Just to show you that it doesn't only say it in one spot, another dude named John, he wrote this. He said, "Do not love this world, nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything that we see and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but they are from this world." Okay, what does that mean? This world. Well, James wrote this world, he meant all the bad stuff out there. All the crappy music that's out there that talks about all the stuff that you know is wrong. All the TV shows you shouldn't be watching. Drugs, alcohol, sex, all of that kind of stuff. That's the world, right? Being rich, getting yours. That's the world, right? Win at any cost. Who cares? Get that truck and that boat and that hot tub and that motorcycle. Get them all. You better have them all. And then get a big house and go to California all the time. Oh, wait. So, guys, that's what we mean when we're talking about the world. Take a look up here. You can see that it says pleasure, right? That was the word that it talked about. When you go after your own pleasure, let me drop a little Greek on you. Remember, the Bible was originally written in Greek. The word for pleasure is hedone. Hedone. That sounds like an English word, which is hedonism. What is the definition of hedonism? Well, it means pursuing pleasure at any cost. You don't care. Bless you. You don't care. You just don't care. You want something and you're going to get it no matter what. Think about your life. Think about how you feel and act when there's something you want that you don't get or you can't have. Uh-oh, that's a little scary, right? We can have a little hedonism in us. And what happens when you're pursuing pleasure or hedonism? Well, it makes you the enemy of God. Ooh, you don't want that. Let that sink in, guys. If all you care about is yourself, I got to get that new phone. I got to have that new phone. I got to get that iPhone X. Got to have it, got to have it, got to have it. I got to get that Switch. I got to get it. I got to get that Wii. I don't know what it is for you. It's different for all of us, right? For us adults, it's different, right? I talk about it all the time. I got to get that pickup. I got to get that. I got to get that Toyota Tacoma. I got to get it because then I'll be happy, right? No, it doesn't work that way because Jason has the truck I want, and his life is not perfect. So I'm totally teasing you. It's the sweetest truck I've ever seen. I would love to have it. Can't have it right now. Guess what? That's okay. Because the pursuit of pleasure at any cost makes you God's enemy. Sailor. Oh, totally. Could you guys hear what she said? Stand up and say that real loud.
If you want one thing and you get it, you'll want something else.
100%. I finally got my motorcycle last year. I still want more. I still want a bigger bike. Now I want a faster bike. Now I want a louder bike. It's ridiculous. It never ends. Paul. Oh, okay. Guys, you do not want that. Now, you might be sitting here thinking, you know what? I'm kind of good. I'm good. I'm only kind of half in the world and half out. I mean, come on, Scott. I go to church, dude. What more do you want? Well, let me drop a little truth on you. In the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 30, it says this: anyone who isn't with me opposes me. And anyone who isn't working with me is actually working against me. Ooh. Who do you think said that? Jesus. Who do you think said that? Jesus. Good job. Guys, those are Jesus' words. This whole half in and half out thing when it comes to your faith, it makes you God's enemy. Ooh. I don't want to be God's enemy. Next slide. I threw that up just for fun. Anybody here want to be the creator of the universe's enemy? You want God against you? Because guess what, guys? You can't win. He created everything in 6 days and then took a break, not because he had to, but because he wanted to show us that we need to rest. He's all-powerful, almighty. And if you love this world, he is your enemy. I have a suggestion. Back in old times, when you gave up, what would you wave? Anybody know from history? White flag. I suggest you surrender. I suggest you give in to God. Because you can't win. You just can't. Picture a line that goes from here all the way to that wall. You got it? You can picture a line that starts here and goes to that wall. If I had a little tiny pin and I put a tiny little hole in the tape right here, that can represent how long you're on this earth, and the rest of that line represents eternity. And actually, that line would never stop. Guys, we get so wrapped up in pursuing pleasure for ourselves, don't we? I do it. We rent a house. I want to own a house again. So I think about it a lot. Ooh, where can I move to? I got to buy that house. Well, if I do that, I'm not going to be as good a dad because I'm always going to be worried about money. I worry about that stuff all the time. It's so dumb. Ooh, you know what? I want to grow our youth group really big so that people will think I'm a good youth pastor. Ooh, that's a good one. That doesn't make you God's enemy. Oh, wait, yeah, it does. Because I want people to think I'm awesome. It's pleasure, right? Instead, I should want to grow this group so that more kids get to know Jesus, right? I struggle with this too. I struggle with momentary pleasure instead of serving God with all my heart. And I wonder tonight, what will it take for you to surrender? What will it take for Paige to be like, you know what, this is stupid. I pursue all these things that have nothing to do with God, and I'm just using Paige because she was in my line of vision. Francis. Mike. Mike. And we could put all of your names in here. Right? I don't know the answer to that question, but I want to drop how you do this so that you walk away with some hope. Take a look up here. In James chapter 4, it says, okay, so what do? Well, here's what you do. So humble yourselves before God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come close to God, and God will come close to you. So wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, for your loyalty is divided between God and the world. Guys, you got to sell out. I don't know how to say it any other way. I'll get on my knees, and I'll beg you. Sell out to Jesus. Because this half-living crap isn't working. And it just makes you God's enemy. Surrender. Surrender the music you listen to if it's crap. If your music talks about sex and drugs, stop listening to it. Because it's pulling you away from God. If the TV shows you watch are pulling you away from God, then forget them. But I like my TV show. Okay, be God's enemy. Because I sure don't want to stand in front of him one day when he was like, Katie, I asked you to stop watching that show over and over and you just wouldn't. Now you're my enemy. Yeah. I know this is heavy, but I need you to hear what James is saying because these are heavy words. Let me wrap up by telling you about a dude named King Solomon. King Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived according to Scripture. King Solomon, because of his wisdom, rose through the political ranks and became the most powerful king the earth had ever seen. The Queen of Sheba traveled from Africa just to bow down in front of him. He had more wealth than you can imagine. For that time, he had, if it's true, he had 98% of the world's wealth under his control. Let that sink in. And so, he got bored. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, he wrote this. You know what? Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. Because you're in middle school, we're not going to break that down. But think about it, gentlemen. If you saw a girl that you liked, you just take her. Ladies, you see a dude you like, you just take him. Or if Amanda really likes Lena's shirt, just take it. I want that, thank you. Sorry you're naked. And I feel middle shirt is pretty sweet, so. Seriously, it would be like me just, taking Francis's house. Sorry, dude, I want to live in Saybrook. Mine, get out. Anything he wanted, he took. Let's see what he thinks. He said, I even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labors. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was also meaningless. Like chasing the wind. Sailor got it earlier. Guys, you can never have enough. Ladies, that boy that you think completes you, he doesn't. Gentlemen, that hot girl in algebra, nah, she doesn't complete you either. And for me, once I get my hot tub and I get my truck and I get my boat, I'm going to want something else. I just will. A new car! I'm not much of a Lamborghini guy, but there is Ford's making a new Raptor Ranger. Oh, I want that. Just saying. No, see, I like Sailor. Dang. Kleinscher, did you hear that? She was just like God's enemy. Guys, I'm out of time. Thankfully, there are a bunch of adults here who love you guys and want to chat with you about what's going on in your lives. Poor Jamie Grace. You got this? Wendy got called out. Wendy's a nurse, and she had to leave. And so everybody that's a female is going with Jamie Grace tonight. So, ladies, here's my request. I know you guys get giddy and crazy. You can't go nuts tonight, all right? Because otherwise, she's going to go from sweet to sour real fast, all right? And we don't want that. Gentlemen, you'll be going with the dudes, and you will be using those. So everybody grab a great small group.